2, 1, live. Okay, I think we're live. So, welcome everybody. We are here for the first CDI stream episode of 2025. So this is this is pretty good. I don't know why everything has to be framed in like this is a new year thing. This is a new year thing. I'm just repeating some stereotypes. My beginning of the year has been quite awful, I must say. I've really struggled. So it feels already like December. But today is a good day because I was very much looking forward to welcome Valentina Tanni to our
Thank you very much.
Episode.
Thanks for having me.
Do clap. Yeah, of course. We can clap. So that, we do have a real embodied audience, like full humans. And also, of course, welcome to our global audience, tuned in from wherever in the world and in the galaxy. Welcome to the people who are now entering the room. And feel free to grab a beer. And also, I was doing dry January. I was telling Michael, I was doing dry January, and I'm interrupting it for the stream.
Special occasion.
Special occasions, because also what I really liked of doing this stream is that I can drink while working. So that is sort of a lifetime achievement. And today, I experienced another lifetime achievement. So we met with Valentina and Rom from Ukraine TV, Stream Art Network, who's with us today. And we traveled up to Coventry to reach the University of Warwick, where CDI TV is based. And I'd never met Rom in person. And he said, "Oh, I've seen you on TV. Guys, I've seen you on TV. So I am one person to whom someone said, I've seen you on TV. So this is pretty, high-level achievement. Now, without further ado, let's start the streaming for real. Well, the streaming, the chat, the conversation with Valentina for real. I should remind you that I'm Carolina Bandinelli from the University of Warwick, and here we have Michael Disher from the University of Warwick, and here we are, Center for Digital Inquiry TV, CDI TV, in collaboration with the Media Lab. Okay, so today we really do have nice visuals. And how could have been otherwise when we have Valentina Tanni? Valentina Tanni, when it comes to visual, is really the person you'd like to talk with. I realized it yesterday when I had the honor of going to the Tate Modern with her. I was like so happy. I was like a child. I was like, tell me everything, because Valentina is an art historian, a curator. She had been working in the art world, in the international contemporary art scene for over 10 years. She's an author, a researcher, and currently she's working at the John Cabot University and Naba University in Italy. And throughout these different projects, what she's really been interested in is the internet cultures. So in a way, here we have someone that combines the critical lenses of art history, so the tools to really analyze the visual culture, and technology, and indeed the internet. And so she's an art historian. She's passionate about internet cultures, and she's also one of those people. I'm not one of those people, but I have the impression you are one of those people that were really there. Also, Michael, you are one of those people. And I feel kind of, deficient compared to you, because you were really there into the early internet. So
that is true.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Chronically
online.
From the very beginning.
So you had the possibility of witnessing in person. You've grown up with the internet. You've seen how the space of the internet developed. What has become what will become, perhaps. So I suppose, I guess, this is also why you decided to write this book, Exit Reality, about which we're going to talk a little more today. But tell me about your interest in internet cultures.
Yes, that's a long story, but I will try to keep it short. As you said, I've lived on the internet like since the very beginning. Like when I got my first internet connection at home, it was 1997, I believe, and it was like this very like life-changing moment for me. I also talk about that in the introduction of the book, and for the I mean, younger audience here, I should mention that internet in 1997 was a very I don't know, archaic kind of technology. It was not that exciting. It was not like the kind of very rich, diverse internet that we have nowadays. It was kind of small and like maybe seen from our point of view, not that exciting, but for us, it was already like hypnotizing. Like it was life-changing experience. So I got sucked in completely. And I wasn't a computer user before the internet. I mean, not that much. Maybe I played some video games before, but I wasn't like a computer kid at all. But the internet changed me completely. I was around maybe 20 when I started going online, and I was studying art history.
Okay, and do you remember what was about this internet thing that instantly drew you in?
Yeah, the possibilities. Like infinite possibilities, like this portal to everything, anything, this idea of just going online and see what you can find. And also talk to people from all over the world. Now we give, like now, for us now, that's a given. Like it's completely normal, like talking to people all over the world. But at that time, it was crazy. It was like the future, like it was science fiction. We just went on, like in the first few months, the fun thing to do was just enter random chat rooms and talk to people. Like where are you from and what you do, who's there? Like this like sense of very exploration. Like the world is open. We have this portal. And also I was studying art history in Rome. And also we got access for the first times to libraries and images. Like, for example, like for an art history student, finding images of artworks before the internet, it was very difficult. Like you had to spend a lot of time in libraries and sometimes travel or ask other people to send you images. It was not easy.
So you were 20 and you were studying art history,
yes.
and you discovered the internet.
Yes.
And somehow these two things, art history and the internet, had accompanied you. Their entanglement had accompanied you till now.
I usually say that I have a pre-modern life and a post-modern life. Like that object like completely changed. And also completely changed the course of my studies, because that this will sound strange, but I was planning to graduate in medieval art history at the time. So I kind of pivoted.
Kind of a shift.
Yes. And I started to study contemporary art a little bit more. And I had an amazing professor at the time, Silvia Bordini. She was one of the very first scholars in Italy to take media art seriously. So she introduced me to video art, to interactive art, to, in general, to this idea that technology could be used to make art. So I just, and I graduated with a thesis about internet art, and that's the beginning of the story.
Because it's not, I don't think, I mean, for someone that is not already familiar with internet art and the whole different entanglements between art and technology, it may not be that that immediate, that obvious to understand, okay, what does internet have to do with art and with art history? And I think this is something that in both your books, Memetic and Exit Reality, emerges in one of those ways that are like, of course, why didn't I think about it before? This is super clear. Because at least the way I understood it, so we are getting a little more into the book now, the way I understood it is, well, internet creates a whole aesthetic in which we are immersed. We see things, it is a landscape. We can think about it as a visual landscape, as a space that has its own colors, its own codes, its own shapes, and we are constantly immersed in this flow of image. And without even realizing it, we acquire those aesthetic codes. So the subtitle of Valentina's book reads like that: Vaporware, Backrooms, Weirdcore, and Other Landscapes Beyond the Threshold. So when I read Vaporware, Backrooms, and Weirdcore, I had to Google them all because I didn't understand what they were about. Then I Googled them, and I was like, of course, I know it. I want a T-shirt with this image.
Well, some of them are behind us now.
And some of them, exactly.
Yes.
Some of them are behind us now. So there's a sense in which what Valentina's book
I'm slowly
does.
like. I
Yeah,
need
but
to,
this
to get back. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
There's
In position, because I was
There's a
like,
natural
going down.
melting effect. But yeah, so there's a sense in which your book, in a way, is able to pinpoint and name and make sense of some of the things that are part of our space-time, of our experience. So can you tell us something more about it, of our experience? So I would say of our reality. However, maybe it's something different, because this book is titled Exit Reality. So perhaps we can start from the title.
Yes. So the book is my attempt to investigate and analyze internet aesthetics in general, and all the words that you mentioned that are in the subtitles are just some of the most popular, relevant internet aesthetics that we have been seeing emerging in the past decade or so, a decade and a half maybe. And yes, like I felt the need to investigate not only what artists, like professional artists, are doing with technology and around technology, but I felt the need to investigate also what like general normal users are doing, like online. So so-called user-generated content, that's more of a like marketing term, but I like amateur content online. Like I'm interested in investigating what like users are doing. In fact, the previous book was about memes, right? So it's connected in that sense. And as you were mentioning, these images, sounds, text, all these cultural expression that people produce collectively and spontaneously online, they say a lot about us as a society. They are kind of like a way to understand our like contemporary moment and the way we see the world. Like I tend to consider art. I mean, art is a lot of things and does a lot of different things. But one of the things that I think art does is, and that is valid for amateur art and professional art also, it doesn't really matter. But what art does is to kind of help us understand like the cultural atmosphere. Like it's because sometimes we unconsciously put into images and text and sounds like a certain worldview, a certain sentiment about the world, right? So art sometimes is a symptom, right? And I think that since these images, sounds, and texts that compose internet aesthetics, since they are produced collectively, spontaneously online by millions of people all around the world, they are probably the most kind of reliable place, the most like, I don't know. Significant.
Like if we want to if we
If
want to understand the spirit of the time,
yes, like the zeitgeist.
outside of manifestos
Yes.
and canons, then perhaps what is produced by the multitude on the internet
Yes.
is the right.
Like internet folklore, someone would say, right? It's really important. So we study folklore in general. We have been studying folklore for a long time. So why not study internet folklore? Like what? Like the culture that is created by users online, like day by day.
And then I'll pass the mic to Michael. That is another computer. How did you say it? Like postmodern, pre-modern.
Postmodern people.
Postmodern, pre-modern human.
Chronically online
Can I?
people,
Yeah, the chronically online. Can I ask you? But yeah, chronically online, but in a kind of a cool, deep way. Because we are all
I
chronically
don't know.
online,
I don't
right?
know. I wouldn't make that difference though. I don't
yeah.
know. I'm not sure.
Well, this is my projection on you.
Yeah.
I'm using it to feel not enough at this moment. But I want to
You're
ask
probably
you,
like saner than us, so I will take it.
That is the whole debate we can talk about at dinner. But can you give us some examples of these images and aesthetic, so that I don't know we can have something to think about while you go more in depth?
Yes. So as I said, these so-called internet aesthetics are spontaneous, like art movements that we see emerging online, and they are basically collections of images, writing, sounds that are created by communities of people online to try to convey a specific emotion, a specific vibe would be the correct word to use, and it's the word that most users are using right now. Sorry for the the play of words, and so people are using these images and sometimes also the sound component to evoke a specific atmosphere, to kind of conjure a specific atmosphere, to kind of try to communicate a feeling to other people. So in fact, it's not really about how they look. It's about how they make you feel. That's the point of internet aesthetics. It's about trying to use content and manipulate content to kind of transmit feelings, emotions, vibes, state of minds over the internet. Like that it's a place where, this is another like important part of the book. I talk about how our bodies are kind of left out still, like despite of all our efforts, like going online, it's still largely a disembodied experience. So, but we are bodies, and we live in space, and so since we have bodies, we try to kind of find a way to transmit also physical sensations. And through the manipulation of the senses, you can reach other like mind states. So internet aesthetics are a lot about this, about trying to like make you feel certain things. Very specific emotions sometimes, very specific atmosphere. And because it also, internet aesthetics they are created and distributed also with a memetic logic, meaning that they are modular, and also meaning that they have certain kind of templates that people tend to reuse and change. So in a way, they are a special kind of meme in a certain way. And the first, I think what I do in the book is also try to like build a little bit of a history, of course, like since I'm an art historian. So of course, that's, right? Yeah, exactly, I can help. So the first internet aesthetic in history, I think it has been Vaporwave. It's the first like moment in which we see a specific kind, like a group of images, a style, and first of all, a genre of music, because Vaporwave emerges first as a musical genre and after also as a visual style. And Vaporwave emerges in the late 2000s, so between 2009, 2010, and it's the first internet aesthetic that is entirely native to the web, because it's kind of the consequence of having lived online very early. So it's the music, and it's composed by sounds and images produced by people that have been growing up online. In that sense, it's the first aesthetic that is native to the internet. It's produced by the generation of people that went online in their childhood or early adolescence, so the formative period. And so it's like, for them, the internet, it's a new landscape. So it has kind of a very, like, it's an inspiring role. It's like, I don't know, the city for the modern artist, like the modern city, like for the 20th century artist, like this new, yes, exactly.
I think you've sort of already partly answered the question that I was going to ask, but just to draw some links with what we're doing with CDI TV and the Stream Arts network, we're so happy to have you here because our kind of approach to doing these streams is to accept the fact that now the internet is, no longer just on a desktop, but is, in our pockets, is around us all the time. And all space is sort of mediated in this patchwork way so that we're always bleeding, into these other time spaces. And so we think about this as like hybridity. And so it's great to have a theorist of the aesthetics of this come to the stream. But one thing I wanted to ask just a little bit more about this kind of historical side of things. In the 90s, I'm sure you'll remember, like one of the big, concepts for the internet was cyberspace. Yeah. So how do you understand, you've sort of partly answered this, but can you say a bit more about what's the difference between like that era of spatial imaginary and cyberspace and virtual reality versus like exit reality and the liminal?
Yes. As I said, the topic of space together with the topic of time are two things that I investigate a lot in the book because are really central. And that's true. We have been using spatial metaphors to talk about what happens online since the very early days of the internet. And so, yes, we have been talking about cyberspace, which is a term that comes from literature, right? From a very famous novel by William Gibson, but also other words. We have been talking about, the information superhighway, which is also a spatial metaphor, and also, chat rooms. If you think about it, we still say that we visit websites. Yeah. So we use a lot, our desktop is like a virtual desktop. And so we have been using these spatial metaphors since the very beginning. Because, of course, we use metaphors to kind of help people adapt to new things, new tools, new social situations, new technologies, and so on. Also new feelings, right? Like it's a tool that we use to kind of try to adapt, especially when it comes to new technologies. But in the 90s, and for at least a decade, the online and the offline were considered two separate worlds. It started like that. So we had, in fact, cyberspace also was, we had cyberspace and the opposite of cyberspace was meat space, like the space of our meat bodies, right? So it was like this very, people were talking about the real and the virtual, right, as two things that are completely separate. So this was the beginning. So we felt that the internet was this other dimension, right, in every sense. But over time, the entire perception of what the internet is has shifted. First of all, because more and more people got online. So it was not just a special experience. And also we got mobile technology and Wi-Fi connections. And this thing that we have right now, which is 24-hour connection, a non-stop connection, we are always connected. It's not just like in the old days, like people would say, I'm going to go home and connect to the internet. No, today I can't go out because I'm going to surf the web. It was like a very special experience.
I remember the internet cafes.
Yes, we had internet cafes, were special places where you would go to get to go online, like to surf the internet, because that was the way. In the beginning, two separate dimensions. Then we realized that it was not really the case, and so we got in a new era, and the perception of the internet shifted, and we tend to see the online and the offline as two dimensions that are not separated at all. They are continuously interacting with each other, and the online world is just another, it's just a layer of the real world. It's not perceived as a separate dimension. And also we learn sometimes at our own expenses that what happens online doesn't stay online, and that we need to kind of consider that these two dimensions are basically connected and always kind of intertwined. And so the whole perspective have changed so much. But what these aesthetics, I think, they express very well is the fact that nonetheless, even if we don't perceive the internet as a separate dimension anymore, we still kind of feel frustrated by the fact that this door, like this portal, is always partially shut. Like we can go in, but not with our, like, for example, not with our body, not entirely. We can't teleport anywhere like we do in video games. Yeah. We can't time travel. It's a lot about unfulfilled promises of technology. Yeah. Like we have been promised time travel and teleportation. Exactly. We don't have that.
And we ended up with Instagram.
Yes.
No, just
yes.
It's true. Like where
it's
are
true.
The flying cars? Where
it's
are the
true.
Teleport technologies?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't need Google Maps. I just want to be in Australia and say,
yes, exactly. And so I think that some of these aesthetics, they express a lot of different feelings, but one of the things that comes out, I think, very strongly is the fact that we try to find compensating tactics to kind of open this portal. So we use images and sounds and other kind of media content to trigger emotions, to kind of be in the same place mentally together with people that are not there physically. And so, for example, in the book, I talk about ASMR, that you surely know, which is all about like sensory stimulation. Also, the ambience videos are extremely popular and are used by people to kind of trigger a specific state of mind, and also as a kind of, maybe they also have maybe a therapeutic kind of effect. People use certain sounds or certain images also to kind of cope with certain situations, to cure themselves in a lot of different ways. And so, yeah, and then in the second half of the book, I also talk about how you can start by just wanting to travel with your mind, but then you might want to go higher, and therefore we see other phenomena such as the reality shifting trend. I don't know if you have ever heard about it. So
I heard about it.
Reality shifting on TikTok.
Who heard about reality shifting?
Just you.
Just you. So you see, I'm not alone.
Yeah. It's a trend that we have been seeing emerging a few years ago, especially on TikTok, but not only, also on YouTube and on other platforms. Basically, it's, in order to make it more comprehensible, it's similar to lucid dreaming, right? So it's kind of like we see these young people that they really want to shift reality. They want to kind of travel with their mind to another plane of reality, another dimension. It's also based on the multiverse theory, this idea that there are infinite universes that you can travel to. And so they have been very young people, but when I say young, I mean really young. Reality shifting emerged initially from people around 12, 14, like very, very young people. And that from their bedrooms, they were trying to meditate and achieve like a certain kind of transcendence with their minds to shift to another reality, maybe go to Hogwarts and meet Draco Malfoy. They want to travel to fictional universes. Harry Potter, that was the reference. Yeah, and the interesting thing about reality shifting is that if you want to shift, you need to script your reality in a very detailed way. Yeah, you just take a piece of paper and you draft your desired reality, and then you meditate, you kind of, you have to, there are a lot of so-called methods, and there's an entire movement around this. And I think that this is just maybe the higher level of this staircase. Like you start maybe just with stimulating your senses, then you travel with your mind, and then you might want to try to like project your entire being elsewhere.
I think you're starting to cover again, like, I was interested, what are some of these vibes? Mm-hmm. And some of them that you talk about are also horrific, like they come from the horror genre.
Yes.
So I just want to like encourage you a bit more to speak about, like, there's this basic kind of mechanism of like, wanting to, or being frustrated with this threshold. And then it gives rise to all of these different vibes. And if you're saying that there's a sort of zeitgeist here, what is this zeitgeist?
One of the key words in the book that comes from the world of the internet aesthetics in general is liminality. Maybe you might have heard of liminal spaces. That's like one of the aesthetics that we see online. And it's also something that we can see in most of these aesthetics, like this fascination with places that are known places where you're just supposed to pass through, or spaces that look abandoned, empty. We have one now. Yes,
The back rooms.
those are the back rooms. Yeah, the back rooms are. It would take hours to explain what the back rooms are, but let's just say that the back rooms are an internet mythology that has been created by internet users, and it's this kind of horrifying place that it's composed by an almost infinite number of identical rooms, all yellow, deserted, and no one is there apparently, maybe, and that's the horrific part, because you don't know if something or someone is there, and it's kind of an infinite labyrinth. You keep going on, and you don't know what's there. The only thing that you can hear is just the buzzing sound of the neon lights. And the horrifying thing about the myth of the backrooms, the meme of the backroom, is not just that the place is empty. It's the fact that you can end up there accidentally. Like, according to the original post that was published on 4chan in 2019, if you you can accidentally step out of reality through a process called no clipping. No clipping is a term that comes from gaming culture. Like, gaming culture is the absolute, like, the main source for most of internet aesthetics. Like, the generation that has been raised on games is kind of bringing most of the culture inside internet aesthetics. So you can no clip out of reality, and you end up in this terrifying place that is basically out of this world. That's why it's called the backrooms. And this entire mythology that in a few years have produced, I don't know, I think thousands of video games, memes. There is also a movie under production.
Also, the television show Severance is inspired by
exactly.
Backrooms. So
Very
it's
clearly.
found its way into like quite mainstream culture.
So it has become this giant mythology, and it all started with a photograph just found online by some users. And at some point, another user added a caption. And then this giant narrative. This is really fascinating. This is one of the things that I like about the internet. Like, millions of people around the world, they don't know each other. They build a myth. Right, in years, like, and then the backrooms got other levels, because, like every video games, you need to also have other levels, and it became this mythology. And to go back to your question about the threshold, we seem to be talking a lot about this idea of living between things, like in this sort of liminal space in which we feel like we're stuck. And we don't know exactly where's the exit, and if there's an exit. Like, this sensation of being in a transitional space, but stuck in a way, right? And this is a cultural idea that starts from Vaporwave. Like, Vaporwave is, we can relate Vaporwave with ontology and all the work that Mark Fisher did about this idea of being culturally stuck, like this idea of being stuck in a loop, that culture is not evolving anymore, and we don't see the future. Like, that starts with Vaporwave, and it's still very much there in all the other subsequent aesthetics, this idea of liminality.
So I have a question that is, I don't know, it's kind of a personal interpretation of what you've been saying, so I don't know whether it makes sense or not, but I agree it's super interesting, this mythopoiesis, the creation of myth. And in a way, myths are created exactly as you described, like millions of people around the world that don't know each other, and somehow a myth is originated. And one could argue that the internet remediates this process, perhaps changing the pace of it, because in the span of a few years, we have a myth that is there. I suppose there is one question about whether these internet mythologies, so mythologies created, originated within internet, how they percolate into the experience outside the internet. Okay, I shouldn't say outside the internet, but we understood each other.
AFK. That's how
AFK?
It's away from keyboard.
Okay,
that's
away
the
from
way
keyboard.
That's the word
That's
we should
the way
use.
the cool kids say
Yes.
it. You know, I told you. I told you. Okay, so AFK.
You shouldn't
how
say,
they percolate.
young people
Yeah,
also
no,
say
but-
in real life.
In real
even if
life.
it's outdated, but they still use it in
Okay,
real life.
yeah,
They don't know if
IRL.
that the internet is
No,
real,
because
but
I never sort of found a way to say it, because I understand that, okay, the internet is not a separated reality, but in a way, it's not even, I mean, every space, it's integrated but also separated. Like, this is a space that is partially separated from my living room, like, so in a way. But anyhow, so this is one question.
Yeah.
And the other question is about these rooms, the back rooms. Because the first time I encountered them, I was like, well, for a horror dystopia, it's not that bad. After all, it's a corridor. Like, it's a corridor very similar to an office corridor or a hospital corridor, which I admit it is terrifying. But compared to other sort of dystopian horror spaces, like, I don't know, spaces, well, perhaps one of the first mythologies of a horror space you can end up is hell. Like a place with flames in which you burn. So a corridor is not that bad. But it's interesting how, these spaces, like the non-places, to quote Marc Auger, which you quote in the book, have become horrific.
Yeah.
So I suppose my question is, can you expand on how how the horrification of non-places, of a pale yellow corridor, have become, like, in the spirit of our time, the ultimate nightmare?
Yeah, I think that there are at least a couple of reasons. The first one is that it's not just a corridor. It's a space that it's so big that we don't know the exact extension of it. Right. And the horror lies in the fact that there are all identical rooms, like randomly segmented, and they're all identical, and you don't see anything. But in the original meme, the caption also says that, like, you might want to be silent because something can hear you at some point. So it's the horror. First of all, is it lies in the fact that you don't know. You don't know if there's an exit. You don't know the extension of this place, and you don't know if someone is there. That's the first thing. And also, it's the horror connected to the concept of infinity. We as human beings, we don't we don't like deal very well with the concept of infinity because we are finite beings, and so there's something terrifying. Think about the infinity of space, of outer space, for example. That's some horror in there, right? This idea of being lost in a place that you don't know how big it is, and if it has an end or not. The other, I think, reason lies in the fact that liminal spaces are not just empty spaces. Liminal spaces are, in the context of internet aesthetics, are spaces that we normally see crowded or inhabitated, and that suddenly we see empty. And there is an amazing book that I also quote. It's called The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. It has been written by John Koenig. And the book is actually a dictionary with new words. It invents new words for new feelings. And there's a word that it's contained in the book and that internet users as they have adopted to talk about liminal spaces. And this word is kenopsia. Now, kenopsia is the feeling, according to the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, is the feeling that you get when you see a place that you normally see very crowded, like bustling with life, and you suddenly see completely empty. For example, a mall deserted, or a school with like completely empty, a supermarket, and so on, like a parking spot. All these places that we normally see full of life, completely empty. So they kind of, the seeing these places kind of gives us a weird sensation, like maybe probably unconsciously, because the question that comes to mind is, where is everybody? Like, maybe something catastrophic happened. Maybe this is how the world look like without us or after us. Like this is like the unconscious kind of thought that you can have, like without realizing it. It's about the world without us. That's a terrifying kind of feeling, I think. So I think maybe these are two things that are connected. And also maybe one last thing, if very briefly, is the fact that the backrooms are, in the book I suggest that they can be also interpreted as a render, maybe not a natural place, but as a simulation. Maybe they have been produced by a computer program, right? And this computer program glitched, and so it keeps expanding, and maybe it will keep expanding forever. So I think that it's also connected to our fear of technology and of losing control over it. Like, yeah.
I mean, there's so much there, and Carolina and I have so many other questions, but I should also invite others that are here for the live stream, either in person or online, to ask any questions or make comments. While you're thinking of anything you may want to ask Valentina, I'm just going to ask a bit of, it's not quite a methods question, but it's a little bit about like how you see your role as a theorist of internet aesthetics. Because, you know, it occurs to me reading the book that there's so many insightful examples that you post that are already themselves theorizations of the phenomena. Like the internet, you know, sort of self-theorizes all of the time. So I just wonder, like, as you're preparing these books and thinking about, you know, what kind of, you know, interventions you want to make, what kind of book is this? Like, how do you deal with, like, what do you add to that?
Yeah.
And in the meantime, if you want to raise your hand, I'll be ready with the mic. So. Momentum.
Okay. Are you okay? You need help? Okay. I decided to, during my work, I selected a lot of material from forums, from comments on, I don't know, the comments on YouTube videos and comments on different platforms and websites. And in the beginning, it was just material that I archived for me because I just wanted to know a bit more. Like I took a sort of ethnographic approach. I wanted to be there in the forums. I also engage in conversation with users because I think that it's really important to not just describe these images or these sounds. It's important to kind of try to explain to the reader why these images are important, why these sounds are so important to people, right? And the only way to do that, I think, is to let users speak for themselves. And so the book is full of quotes that I extracted from, as I said, comments and forums and a lot of these sources, so from YouTube, Reddit, 4chan, and so on. So I thought it was important to give users a direct voice. Because as you said, it is true that the internet theorizes itself a lot. Because a lot of users, they love to discuss the culture they build. It's something that happened from the very beginning. And there's always a lot of discussion. I suggest, like that's a suggestion. I encourage you to always take a look at the comments on their YouTube videos, especially YouTube videos that are maybe related to some very emotional piece of music, for example. those places are incredible. Like, people engage in very profound conversations, and they get together, and there's like this really emotional kind of thing going on. And I mean, at least for me, in this like moment in time in which the internet is not an easy place at all. Like, now we're talking about aesthetics and the joy of being online, but we all know that there are also a lot of issues that we need to deal with, right? And that we have a lot of problems of different kinds, economical, political. It's not an easy moment. Like, technology is taking also a dark turn for a lot of reasons. So I think that exactly for this reason, it's important to also remember that people online are not, like, despite what the dead internet theory says, people are still online, and people are still alive and still producing content and still talking to each other and kind of infusing the internet with like human qualities. So yeah, so that's. I don't think I answered the entire question, but maybe
But
I would
there are
like.
more questions to answer now. So, okay. So we have a couple of questions here and one there. Should I take like the 3 questions and then? Yeah. Let's do that. Norsi.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great listening to you. You spoke about the early internet, so I can't resist asking a question about that.
Yeah.
Because I also remember it as a time where the aesthetics of the internet was super important, and in a way it was what it was all about. And what for me was really memorable was, so I was in Amsterdam in the 90s, and there was lots of net art around.
Yeah, that was the golden age of net art, especially
Yeah.
in Amsterdam.
Yeah, it was amazing in all kinds of ways. And one of the things I remember is the collective called Jody.
Oh, yeah,
And
they're great.
they created this CD that when you put the CD into your computer, it would basically take over your OS, and you would watch your computer, your OS disintegrate visually and sonically. And I really loved it. I found it really liberating.
It was great. Like, Jody in the mid 90s, they were like the most exciting thing you could find online. Yeah.
And yeah, what I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
I'll turn it into a question, is, so the way in which breakdown featured in early internet art and how that could be liberating, like, is that, how do you see that within sort of the broader aesthetics of the internet? And do you think that that is something that translates to the current moment, or are we in a different place now?
We are definitely in a different place. Yeah. I remember the times you were talking about very well. And actually, Jody's work was a giant part of my thesis. So the thesis was about net art, and their work is like central to the entire movement. We're living in an entire different internet for so many different reasons, not only from the point of view of aesthetic, but in general. I think that attitude, though, this idea of misusing technology to kind of also expose the limits, the structure, how it works, what it does, it's really important. It's something that we should kind of bring back. Because now we live in a technological world in which we are surrounded by interfaces. And some of these interfaces, they are extremely layered. So we don't see the machine anymore. We don't think about how the machine works. We don't know that. And we tend to just use, like most people tend to use the technology as intended without like asking questions about how it worked, who designed it, and like which possible consequences of the technology can be for society. So unfortunately, I would say that today that kind of hacker attitude is not there that much. But I think that we are witnessing like a bit of a revolt, finally. I don't know how far we are going to go with this, but I see that a lot of people, especially younger generation, they are kind of getting a little bit sick of just being like on the platforms and just do what they're told. So they are kind of trying to find new ways of being online. But it's a very different kind of environment. And these internet aesthetics that I talk about, they are more, I would say that they are more, I mean, in an artistic sense, they are less, I don't know how to phrase it. They're not political in the way that Jody was political. They are more like concentrated on the emotional side of being online. And they're all about like our feelings and how we feel, how we cope with life. More an intimate kind of reflection on life online. It's different. Not less important, I would say, but different.
Just to say that, you know, having met Jody a couple times in that period, they never talked about politics.
No, I wouldn't
I was
say
quite
politics in
frustrated
that
that they
sense.
wouldn't be interested at all in talking about culture, society, politics. So that was also strength.
Yeah, but they were political without addressing politics directly, but their work was highly political. They were deconstructing technology in a very radical way, and I think that's political. Like, even if you're right, they never talk about politics, or they never, and also they used to speak very little in general about their work. It was very radical. It was about deconstructing the interface, like radically, and that was, I think, political, like for me.
So we have another question here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You are discussing places and weird places and liminal places. And I'm just wondering, what do you think? What does internet do to time? And what does time do to internet? So, for example, this screen is broadcasting, well, something what is happening here, but there is a gap, a time delay, right? But we cannot be really sure if it is a time delay. Maybe it's a time lapse, or maybe, well, this picture is something which will happen in a couple of seconds. So maybe it's a future too, or maybe it's a past, or maybe it's just a lapse and nothing is really happening. So I understand your book is around places, but what do you think? What does internet do to time, or how time and temporality
the book
and
talks
internet are related?
Sorry.
Thank you.
The book talks a lot about spaces, but also about time, because time and space, we cannot separate the dimension. They are linked, like, profoundly. So time, like in the book, a couple of times I quote Philip Dick, and this idea of time being out of joint is everywhere. Like, people, users online, they are very interested in this idea, not only of traveling to different dimensions, but also traveling to different points in time. So this is also very, very present. And it's true also that the experience of being online also changes our perception of time. And another thing that I talk about a lot is the fact that we also kind of time travel artificially, I don't know, like when we are on the internet, because now at this point in time on the internet we have access to material from all the different, I mean, not all, but most of historical periods and places and cultures all around the world. So we can kind of artificially time travel, like we can kind of reconstruct maybe, I don't know, the atmosphere of a certain place in the 70s very easily, because we have access to movies, we have access to music, fashion, and in fact, young people are doing that a lot. They sometimes kind of romanticize maybe a point in time in history, and they would like to relive that moment, and they use the internet to kind of research very profoundly about that historical period and recreating the atmosphere, the vibe of that point in time. So there's this idea also that time is like a line that we can travel, maybe not with our body, and not proper time travel, but maybe with our mind. We can explore vibes and times. And in fact, another like giant I mean, that will open a big chapter, but I will just mention it. Another important keyword in internet aesthetics, all internet aesthetics starting from Vaporwave, is nostalgia. Like people are like indulging in nostalgic sentiment all the time. And we see this weird thing happening, like of very young people being nostalgic for things they never experienced. So nostalgia is becoming like a generic sentiment, right? It's not really about being nostalgic about your past. It's about being nostalgic in general. So nostalgia is kind of this, I don't know, propellant that you can use to go elsewhere with your mind. It's about imagination more than memory. But yeah.
There's another question here. A lot of notes. I can see a lot of notes.
Stopped noting. Sorry. It's really
A lot of notes,
Yeah,
specs.
yeah, yeah. I've had the therapy. I've stopped writing notes. The first thing that I was really.
Do you want to speak on the mic
Yes.
for our global audience?
Yeah, stick me on the mic. The first thing that really occupied my mind was the thought of the metaphors that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Corridors, doors partially open, people exiting reality, and lived experience as a parent and collective of parents about what's actually happening now with teenagers not attending school, struggling to socialise, self-harming. It's widespread, like kind of, I'd say endemic rather than pandemic, but that's not the question, okay? So my question is, and I think I'm heading towards trying to create something positive from what we're observing. How does Donna Haraway's autopoiesis fit within this liminal space, the backroom space? So that autopoiesis being the sort of collective making about community, the community of compost, which is partially self-sacrificial with a clear vision of a future and a way of making future. So the antithesis of what you were describing, that is heavy, it weighs heavy, what you were describing.
Yeah, I get it. I think that it's obviously connected, but it's, I mean, in this aesthetics, I feel like this sentiment and also the act of myth making, it's not entirely conscious as a process, and maybe that changes. It's not about wanting to create change. It's more about elaborating like a tactic to survive, to communicate, like creating your own world. It's about world making. But I wouldn't say that it's like a conscious attempt, right? I would say that these aesthetics are more like a spontaneous way that people are finding to express themselves, to connect with each other, to kind of communicate these vibes, to feel related. But maybe this is the difference. It's not entirely conscious as a kind of, yeah. The myth making in general, the backrooms also in particular. Like initially, the myth of the backroom, it started just as a joke. It was just, sometimes it's associated with a thing that is called creepypasta online. Now, creepypastas are just stories that you can find online, like urban legends, like internet urban legends, that kind of thing. They are related to horror. They are mostly horror stories, and they are called pasta because it comes from copy-paste, because people tend to copy-paste these stories, but then they make little variation, and so it becomes a mythology in that sense. You don't have just one story. You have one story and all the variation, like in folklore in general, right? Like mythology in all folklore is not just one story. We have versions of them. Yeah.
Those kind of scary stories.
Yeah.
Serve the purpose in
Yes.
for, kind of moral reasons.
Yeah.
Save you from the wolf.
It's a lot of things together. It's that, but it's also just a game in the serious sense of the world. Like, and there's something that also interesting about internet culture is the fact that games and rituals sometimes are the same thing. And I don't think it's the first time that we see that in history. Like, I think that young generations, sometimes they use games as rituals, like to connect together and also to kind of imagine possible worlds. It's not always like a very conscious process of like saying, I want to build a future, I want to change things. But I think that unconsciously is a way of trying, like, of like a will of, I don't know, wanting to, leave their mark in a way, or just communicate with their peers in a
Do we have any other question? There is time for one more question. Yes, I knew there was.
Thank you for this inspiring talk. While listening to you, I was thinking, oh my God, like you have been doing this for so long, right? Since the 90s. And now here we are at 2025 speaking about this. I'm thinking, how do you feel about blockchain arts? I don't want to say just NFTs, but also NFTs. I have been involved with like an exhibition and a group of NFT artists 2 years ago. And there's so much interesting works that they can do using the blockchain technology, not only just the digital image of the monkey, like there's so many things.
Yes.
Do you have any research going on about that? I don't know, the whole, like listening to you basically. I have been listening, but also in my mind, I kind of like started this blockchain art history kind of thinking already. Do you have any studies about that?
If I studied blockchain,
Yeah. Did you have any
I
research?
mean, it's not really my focus. Of course, I've been researching a little bit about it, because since I study relationship between art and technology, like for a couple of years, like every interview and every like social situation, people were asking me about NFTs. So it's like I kind of had to get into it. I think that the blockchain as a technology has immense potentialities, but unfortunately, we tend to like build a lot of hype around certain technologies. And now, for example, we have this giant wave of hype around AI. And when the hype is very high, it tends to kind of obscure the real like potentialities of the technologies. We want to apply that technology to everything. So it just become a buzzword, and that happened with blockchain, unfortunately. So we were victims, I think, of a lot of marketing and hype and a lot of scams, unfortunately. But I think that the blockchain technology has potentialities that we can still kind of apply. For artists in particular, it's just a way of monetizing like their work, which is nothing bad. There's nothing bad about it. But there are just a few artists that are also experimenting with the technology, like not just like making an image or a sound and just selling it, but just trying to kind of work with the blockchain technology, but very, very few. There are some interesting.
What I like.
There's an interesting book
was really interesting.
written by a friend of mine about that. It's called Surfing with Satoshi. It has been written by Domenico Quaranta, and
okay, perfect, thank you.
it's about blockchain and art. Very
Surfing with
interesting.
Satoshi.
Surfing with Satoshi.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then Ron from Ukraine TV, Stream Art, Europe Stream Art Network. I've just Googled the keywords.
Yeah, it's the transition from European Stream Art Network to just a Stream Art Network. Yeah, that's what we try to do. Accelerate.
Didn't survive even there.
Europe is still in the background, but there is something more than Europe. Yeah, there is future. That's what you already asked about. I would like to keep this direction maybe, because there was something about nostalgia, there was something about the beginning, some archaeology of the internet, this liminal space. There was nothing about the hybridity that we love to use in this, also in this similar context, I think, working with this multi-interconnection situation that we are actually with, yeah. So I would like maybe ask you about some reflection about like current and the future possibilities for this I don't know, the travel in the time, because we have for sure we have like two big chapters. The Web 1, which was this the moment of time and space for some illusions and some utopians that will be connect, that will be free, that is decentralized, and so on, that we can connect cables and connect people together. And then we found ourselves stuck in platform internet, the Web 2, that we are just the consumers. Yeah, we have apps, we have mobiles, we are still online, but there is kind of the gap between ourselves, our And this is what we try to do also in the stream art and also in this kind of meetings, yeah, that we can invert the cameras. We can found this that aspect, that set of that we are like a interconnect, yeah, that we are. Here, you watch your social media, you can do the story, you can stream it, you can do your own streaming from this stream event, yeah, in the same time. Also, we are interconnect together with Key now, and so on. And is it future also for that kind of decentralized dreams from the past? Also, I found a few years ago NFT not only as a kind of field for some technological experimentation, but also institutional experimentation. That is like a new form of collecting. It's of course related to this digital accelerate right wings. So concentrate capital and ownership way of thinking, but maybe there is also like some inspiring to grab to deal with in the subversive way. And yes, this is kind of the comment, and this is kind of a set of question or possible direction to go out
the hope
from
for the future, right? I would say that's our hope for the future, and I, as I said, I see that something is moving, and we need to all keep pushing towards it. Like and especially, and I mean, this may sound banal, but education is key. Like what we need to do is talk to people directly and try to kind of do what Jody did back in the 90s, kind of deconstruct, open the interface, like open the box and show to people what technology really is so that they can make up their mind about it. And also maybe have the courage to get their hands on technology, because that's also what you do, right? Like this idea is not to just accept the tool as it is, but have the courage to mess with it, also in the wrong way, or like with what you have, like in a very like liberating way. So my hope for the future is that we can like transmit to the newer generations this attitude to technology, that it's a more like hands-on kind of attitude that we lost, as you said, over the years. Yeah.
So thanks so much. I think we're going to draw to a close now. That was such an amazing session.
Thank you.
Both books recently translated into English just last year. I think are easily Googleable.
Yes.
If you want to get hold of
yes,
one.
you just Google my name, you found both.
Really look
both.
forward to the next book or your next project. I don't know whether you can make any final comments about what you're working on at the moment.
I recently wrote a short essay about artificial intelligence and art, and specifically about how artists are conversating with machines. It's about the dialogue with machine, not really about art as a product. It's a reflection about how artists enter in a dialogue with the machine to produce something, right? So it's about the relationship between the human, but that will come, the human and the computer. That book will come out in Italian in a couple of months. I don't know about future translations. And then now I'm working on a new project, but that I can't really talk about that much. but it's related to what Ron was saying. It's about the possibility of reclaiming technology in a way.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And if I could just invite everybody to thank Valentina for her time and insights.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and inviting me. Thank you.
And in case you are around and sharing the same architectural space with us in the Midlands, tomorrow from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. at Warri Faculty of the Arts building, Valentina will talk a little more about conversations between art and technology, between the artist and the machine. Seminar will be recorded, so will be available online, and also Valentina will be our guest at the podcast, media, whatever. So Yes, so see you soon, actually. Stay tuned, as they say, as the pro would say. Subscribe. No, this is not
Subscribe, like
saying.
and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, yeah. Okay, good night.
Thank you.